Hi, everybody. Hello. Say hello, Kevin.
Hello, Kevin.
It is episode 7 of the Long Way Around podcast.
What?
Welcome back. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Tony Jackson.
And I'm Kevin Sullivan.
That's Kevin Sullivan. We're back for another episode. We're talking about what it's like to live with a disability. You know what's funny? I think about this podcast is that you, Kevin, and I both have the same diagnosis, arthrogryposis multiplex congenita, for all of you who are just joining us for the first time. And the idea of this podcast was born out of you and me wanting to talk about the shared experience of arthrogryposis, right? But this kind of just has turned into this general disability kind of podcast. And everybody's a little bit different, right? Everybody's got different abilities, if you will. And although we share arthrogryposis together, a lot of our experiences are shared by everybody else in the community as well, which is kind of nice. The struggle is shared. It's nice. I like it.
Yeah.
Nice. So today we are talking about our younger selves. We're going back in time. We're going back in time today, into that weird space known as childhood. It wasn't weird in childhood. It got weird once you became a teenager, right?
That's so true.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I think that's true for everybody, though, right?
The teenage years, yeah, they're already awkward, and then you add a disability on top of it, and
Right.
it's like
It's even
magnify
worse.
it. Yeah.
It's even worse. And I think, unless you're one of the few rare, right, specimens out there, I'm going to call them specimens that are just cool badasses all the way through. Like, it was just awkward for the rest of us, right? And so today, Kevin and I decided that we're going to talk about things that uh, that we wish we could tell our younger selves, because as Kevin just said, like, being a teenager is already damn awkward as it is, right? It is already awkward, and you add on the layer of disability on top of that, and it gets weird, man. It's challenging. It's a lot more challenging. So let's talk about it today, shall we?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's talk about what it's like to grow up with a disability. Now, you, like me, have other siblings, and none of them have a disability that you know of, anyway.
Correct.
And so there's a part of it, and you're the youngest, right?
I am.
Right.
Yeah, I'm the youngest of 3.
I'm actually kind of curious to know what that's like for you, because I'm on the opposite end of that sibling spectrum. I should register trademark that. And so when you grew up, you had siblings who were able-bodied, and I think, as it's natural for younger siblings to do, you likely, correct me if I'm wrong, model a lot of the things that you wanted then, or things that you did then, after what you saw in your siblings.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I will say the nicest thing of being the youngest was the fact that they did everything first. So they went to school first, they had friends first, I basically got to watch how they did these things and then kind of learn from them. I thought that was super beneficial. And I also thought that was beneficial from like my parents as well, because by the time I started at the same schools that my siblings went to, they had already done it twice. So I definitely think being the youngest, it can be an advantage. But then later on, like towards the end of childhood, I feel like it can be a disadvantage because you're the only one left in the house. The parents might be holding on to that last bit of parenting. So I would say that being the youngest can go both ways depending on like where you're at along the timeline. But what was being the oldest like for you? Because I've always wondered that.
Well,
What it would
first,
have been like.
I'll tell you this: you're lucky because your parents got to screw it up twice before they got to you. All right, like they might have like made the most mistakes with your oldest sibling, and then got rid of some of the mistakes with your second one. By the time you came around, they were like, "Oh, we got this shit. We're good to go now." right? We got it. We know what to do. I mean, they probably like know the principal and have had them over for dinner before you even came along. So like everything was good by the time you came around, which must be nice. Me being the oldest, I was a science experiment. Okay, nobody knew what they were doing. And guess what? Parents, you already know this. Like none of this comes with like instructions, right? There's no booklet, there's no manual on how to do this. And so not only are they raising their first child also doesn't walk. Their first child was born with a hernia. And their first child's got little T-Rex arms. And they had to figure that out. So mom and dad, awesome job. I'm still here. So you did a good job. Um, so like they're just like fumbling and tripping over themselves along the way, figuring this out. And this is before the Americans with Disabilities Act came along. This is before the like there's like a UN declaration of like on disabilities or something like that that's got like basic human rights for people with disabilities or whatever. I don't know, whatever it's called. It's
Yeah.
way before then too, because you know back then in the 1970s when Jimmy Carter was president, rest in peace Jimmy Carter, like we just had to figure it out. And so I don't really know what it was like because I don't know anything else. I didn't have anybody to model myself after necessarily. My younger brother, the one closest in age to me, is about a year and a half younger. So by the time he rolled around and I became a sentient being, that I didn't know anything else. Like he's always been there as far as I can remember, right? And so we just kind of grew up together and did stuff together. When you're a year and a half apart, that you can do that, right? And so I don't really know what else it's like. I didn't necessarily like want to follow him, right? Um I really just I was just in a lot of the same circles as him. Not always, but a lot of times though, yes. Especially because growing up in the United States Army, you move around a lot. So you leave friends and make new friends all the time, and we made a lot of the same friends
Right.
growing up. And so I didn't really have that, me figuring it out on my own first. It was kind of like I figured it out and my brother's there and my parents are there and and that was it. So yeah, I don't really have that experience. Um,
See, that was the one thing where it was really kind of different for me is that like it's different today because like we're all adults now. I hang out with my siblings' friends, they've hung out with mine. But when we were growing up, it definitely wasn't like that. But that's because of the age difference.
right.
So my sister and my brother are only about 11 months apart.
Irish
And
twins.
they're Irish twins. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Yep. Well, one of them, I won't say which, was maybe not planned right right then and there. But I came along like a little less than 4 years later. So growing up, like there was obviously that gap of like, oh, they're older, I was in middle school, they were in high school, and so on and so forth. So I definitely didn't you know, hang out, quote unquote, with my siblings outside of like family stuff. That would have been cool. It would have been cool to like have some of the same friends. And I feel like that would have maybe made it a little bit easier to make friends, but it is what it is. It was kind of nice in a way because I had like my own circle and, it was just like my friends that I could go to and they really didn't, know my family super well. So it kind of goes both ways, I guess.
Hmm. Interesting. So, so let me ask you this question
Mhm.
then. When you were growing up, I imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, I imagine you were like maybe the only kid in the entire school who had a disability, or at least a physical disability, right?
Definitely the only one in my grade for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, what about in high school?
So it's funny. When I was in elementary school, I was the only one in my grade who was in a wheelchair. In middle school, there were two of us, and in high school, there were three of us.
What?
We picked someone up along the way.
Whoa, were you all friends? I mean, I know that's kind of like a
Okay.
stereotypical thing, but whatever. Shut up, everybody.
It's so funny how many people will ask me
Yeah.
that, and it's like we don't all know each other. Um, I was friendly with them. I had classes with them. I would not say that we were like super close. But it is kind of funny because when I was in high school, the security guards at my high school would always mistake me for one of the other guys in a wheelchair
And
because
that guy was probably black, right? Like,
no, we actually looked like
oh,
kind of
do
a lot
you?
alike,
Oh, geez.
a
Okay.
little bit. I mean, both like brown hair, brown eyes, white skin. Um, but like they would always call me him, and I'd have to be like, no, like I'm Kevin. They'd be like, oh, right, right, right.
What
And I
was
could
his
tell in their
name?
head that what was his name?
Yeah.
Mitch.
Mitch. Okay.
Mitch. I could always tell they were thinking like, oh, damn, this is the other one.
I was hoping he was like from some other country and his name was like Boris or Javier or something,
Yeah,
right? So like if you knew each other, there's no way you get these two mixed up. But
yeah,
yeah, oh man. I was just curious because like growing up, I was often maybe one of two kids in the entire school who had a disability. When
yeah.
I went to high school for 2 years in South Korea, and there was a girl who used a wheelchair as well. And looking back on it, I think she probably had um osteogenesis imperfecta, which is brittle bone disease for those of you that don't know. I suspect that she had that. But like we like you, we weren't friends. I didn't really know her. We were in different grades, right? Like, I don't really know much about her. I think her name was Bonnie or something like that. Anyway, so what I'm hearing from you is like me growing up, all your friends were like able-bodied kids,
Yep.
right?
Yep, pretty much.
All your friends were able-bodied kids, and so you would want to do everything that they wanted to do, right? You go run
Yep.
around the playground and throw dirt and play in the mud or do whatever you do when you're growing up, right? Now let me ask this: did you at any point like actively try to hide the fact that you have a disability, or were you just like, it was just one of those things where you were just doing your thing?
I think, and I'm sure you've experienced this too with our disability, it's not exactly easy to hide. Um,
Nope.
I, I wouldn't say that I really tried to hide it much. I would maybe try to like sugarcoat certain things, like, oh yeah, I need help eating this, but like it's really easy. It's just like one or two bites, things like that.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't necessarily hide it because, like, I mean, I know it's hard to tell from my camera angle, but like the second you look at me, you know that I have something going on. Um, so no, I would say I didn't really try to hide it too much.
Okay.
Did you?
I wore giant dresses all the time, and it just looked like I was floating everywhere. No, that's not true. No, I mean, I can't hide this. How can I hide this?
Right.
Like kids now can like dress up their chairs to look like tanks or dragons or whatever. No, there was no hiding this when I was a kid.
We grew up in
um
the 80s and 90s. That stuff didn't exist yet.
no, no. And so there was no hiding it. I think for me, I just did my thing like I've always done, right? Like I don't necessarily like shy away from it. I did though. It's interesting that you bring that up. I did too, like sugarcoat and minimize the things that I needed growing up. Yeah, maybe I promise it'll be quick, like just a bite, just a bite or whatever. And somebody would help me with a bite. I remember there have been instances where somebody would help me with a bite and then go off and go do something, and then I'd just sit there and wait for somebody else to come along,
Yes.
and it'd be like have some food by committee, right? And
That's so true. Sometimes you just got to do that. Sometimes just like, all right, you're available. I'm going to take a few bites.
yeah, right. While you're around, right?
Yep.
But I think, as a testament to the way we grew up, like there was no necessarily hiding from it. We were just being us, right? And thankfully for our parents, they didn't treat us like we had disabilities, even though we do. And, obviously there are things that need to be done, to minimize its impact. They didn't really give us special treatment.
Did
At least,
you ever go to an event as a child, like by yourself, and didn't eat because like you couldn't feed yourself, or like you didn't want to ask for assistance from someone?
not as a child, no, because again earlier, like I was saying, my brother and I are pretty close together, so it
Mm,
would be usually both of us together, and he would help me, or like one of my friends would help me, or whatever. I did that as an adult for sure, all the time, as an adult, a younger adult. So I guess, I mean, younger self, I could talk about that too. As a young adult, I would all the time, in college for sure. There would be
yeah,
moments where I would eat a little bit of breakfast with my caregiver, and then I wouldn't eat dinner or lunch, or wouldn't eat lunch or whatever, and then I'd eat dinner with my caregiver or whoever might be around. But like if I was at a party or something, I would just not ask, right?
right.
And because that's when the disability starts becoming front and center,
The
right? And it's
best is when people ask you if you want food, and then you say yeah, and they make you a plate of food, and then they put it
and
in
then
front of you.
and then walk away, and then
Yeah,
walk away.
and I'm
If I
like,
if you've got the
ooh,
plate, I could have gotten the plate myself if I could,
yeah.
right? I would
Like,
have done it myself.
I think you're missing part of this.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. Right?
yeah,
It's like, okay, I appreciate the offer. I might need some other help too,
yeah.
right?
Thank you for putting this plate of delicious food in front of me,
As I
and
sit here and drool.
yeah,
Thank you. Yeah, I've had that. Yeah, that's definitely happened at one point in time. So,
yeah,
um, it's really not until recently that I've really embraced this, right? Like the disability side of me, and just gotten comfortable with it, because I really just don't care anymore, right? Like,
yeah.
when you're younger, especially, like, you don't want to be told no, because then you feel like it's because of you, and sometimes, let me tell you, it is because of you, and that's okay. You can't control that, right? And so, as I've gotten older, though, I've come to not only embrace this body that I'm in now, but like I don't get hurt when people tell me no so much anymore. And so it's part of me, um owning my disability, right? Owning my disability and being comfortable, truly comfortable with it now. Maybe not 100%. I would say maybe like 90, 92%, you know. I own it now, which I think, and we can talk about this more in a second, but I just want to say, like, it's easier to own it now when you're away from your family, right? When you're on your own, you have to own it,
Yeah.
right? When you're a kid and when you're younger, like, you're not forced to own it so much. You have your support systems around you who already accept you for who you are, right?
Mhm.
Um, and so if I were to tell my younger self, I'd just say, hey, look, man, this is you, and it's not going to change anytime soon. Just embrace it and own it.
Honestly, yeah, you really do. I mean, I remember, you know, I would try to do things, like I said, that would kind of diminish it a little bit. But I mean, looking back on it now, it's like I feel like I have much more success having people willing to help me by just being honest and just being like, hey, like, this is it, like, if you want to get lunch, that's cool, but like, you're gonna have to help me,
Yeah,
and like most people are cool with things like that. I feel like there's like tiers of tasks, right? Like
yeah,
that's like a tier one task,
yeah.
you know. Whereas like, helping in like with like a shower, that's like a tier three or a tier four, or however many tiers you want to have.
I'm going to say 4, because there's got to be at least 2 tiers in between. Hey, can you grab this pen for me? And here, will you wash my ass? Right?
I
Right?
mean, probably
Right?
that's fair.
There's a couple levels, gradations of help in between those two things. And so, yeah, like there's like, hey, will you grab this pen? Here, will you help me clean up after going to the bathroom? Will you help me eat? Will you help me change my shirt? Right?
Right.
Like there's different levels of it in there. And so it all really comes down to being comfortable with who you are and embracing the fact that you're going to need help. Also embracing the fact that not everybody's going to want to do this, right? Not everybody's going to want to help you. Also
Right.
embracing the fact that there are other people who will willingly and gladly help you with these things. So that actually leads me to this question about being comfortable with yourself, because in order to be like a a fully fleshed out viable adult person with a disability, you have to be comfortable with yourself, right? It is paramount. So w- at what point, and you might not be there still, I don't know, at what point did you finally say, you know what, I'm cool, I'm comfortable, this is good, I can do this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say for me that's happened in the past like 5 years or so. I think a lot of things have factored into that. I think, there being just more discussion about like disability and disability rights in general in that time. And I also think living on my own, like truly living on my own, like in an apartment. Um, I think, when you're in college, I mean, it's living on your own, but it's like not like real living on your own. But I think when you're, in an apartment and you truly have to manage everything, that makes you realize like, okay, I just got to do this. Like, I got to make sure it gets done no matter what. Um, and you just kind of learn that, okay, like this is what my life is going to be like. I have to be the one to manage it, for better or for worse. And, obviously there are days where that kind of sucks. But for the most part, I think, and I think you probably have too. We've gotten pretty good at it over the years, just from our own experiences, good and bad.
Oh sure. I think that for me, that that comfort level really started coming along maybe, I would say, 10 or so years ago. It's much stronger now. However, what year is this? 2025 for those of you watching in the future, it's 2025. So in 2013, I left Arizona to move to Minnesota. And in Minnesota, I didn't really have a support system. I did because I had friends there, but everything I knew was in Arizona. And so I really had to learn how to like ask for things and advocate for myself and get the things that I needed. I really had to learn how to do that. And then I moved to New Hampshire and I had to learn even more how to do that, because I don't know if you've ever been to New Hampshire, but like 35 people live in the entire state. So,
I actually have been to New Hampshire
oh,
once,
wow.
and yes,
Right.
it's beautiful,
Yeah, it's
but
gorgeous. It's
yeah,
gorgeous. There are 35 people that live in the entire state, and so you really have to be able to like advocate for yourself and ask for what you need and be comfortable with that. And it forced me to be comfortable with it, because if I wasn't, I would have been in worse situations than I found myself in living out there. And so it was probably about 10 or 11 years ago that the really started, and I'm good now. It's really part of who I am, more so now, right? And I just like you, when you meet people, you have to lay down this expectation, say, hey, look, if we're going to do anything together, there's a certain level of help that I need. Maybe tier one, maybe tier two, just like shoving some food in my face, right?
right,
Scratch my forehead, right? That's a tier one thing. Scratch my forehead,
yeah.
right? Um, you have to be really comfortable with it. So, and with that, I think one of the things that I've learned over the years that I wish, what, maybe I don't wish this, because I think I figured it out as I went along. I don't know. I'll have to think about this more as we talk about this, but I, I think like when you have a disability, especially something as pronounced as what we have, like, there are certain um standards, if you will, that people expect from us, and they're not high standards, right? They're
So
not.
true.
Like if you graduate high school and maybe go to a community college for a couple of years, that's good. Like you did good, right? Um, but I think one thing that I think you and I have both figured out along the way, and maybe we didn't need this to be told to us specifically, but maybe other kids and more importantly other parents, that don't let the reality of life stop your children from like going for what they want, right? Because especially now these days, the world, even though we got a long way to go, is so much more inclusive, so much more open to the reality of disability, and so much more willing to provide things to allow people to thrive. Especially now, you parents and you kids these days, you got it so good, so good. So don't let the reality of the world stop you from doing what you want to do, right? Like my mom wanted me to be a lawyer growing up, and I would have been a damn good lawyer. I would have been a damn good lawyer.
Dude, you know how many people have told me I should be a lawyer?
Yeah, because you're crippled and you can't do anything else except for use your brains because you're also smart because you're crippled.
Yeah,
Hey, guess what? I know
I
some
guess so.
dumb bastards out there who are disabled. Some dumb as rocks.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so I'm going to play devil's advocate for a
Okay.
second. So on the whole, like not letting reality stop you from your goals. So you and I both went to school for radio broadcasting.
Mm-hmm.
We both wanted to be sports broadcasters.
Yep.
And we both really didn't do it because of like accessibility
Yep.
issues.
That's fair.
So, do you wish, in hindsight, that people had been a little more realistic about that?
No, no, I don't.
Okay,
And here's the
that's fair.
reason why. Because through no like inner vision on my own, I've still been able to do it. Maybe not to the capacity that I had in mind when I went to journalism school.
Mhm.
However, the opportunity presented itself later. I didn't invent the live streaming for power soccer. That was somebody else's idea, right? A couple people years and years before I even came along into the sport. However, because I went to journalism school and because I learned how to do, broadcasting, the people that had the idea automatically had me in mind when they wanted to do this. And I was the first person that they contacted. And so
Nice.
I've just found another way to do it. Right. I'm
Okay,
not sitting at a radio station. I'm not traveling stadium to stadium and calling games or doing anything like that on a full-time basis. However, since 2012, I've been able to do it.
okay, yeah, that's totally fair. I'm just curious.
And today now, I'll say for you too, you have the knowledge of what it takes to be a broadcaster, and the level of entry is so low now. You can do it from almost anywhere,
Yeah, that's true.
right? You can. And so like if you still really wanted to do it, you could if you really want to do it, right? And even if you're not calling games, there are local high schools who need PA announcers, right? There are local high schools who need play-by-play announcers, right? Even if it's just for like the local radio station,
That is true, but what
right?
if the what if the broadcast booth is at the top of the bleachers, which most of them are?
Yes, and that's part of the reason why I don't do this more,
Yeah,
more involved as I do. However, there's wireless technology now too,
true.
right? Wireless technology is so good now. You can do this from hundreds of feet away, right?
That's
You
true.
can do it from hundreds of feet away. You can sit yourself on the field, call the game, and wirelessly transmit it back into the booth when you got somebody up there, turning knobs and pushing buttons and stuff,
Yeah.
right? There are options now. And so while I'm not pursuing those options, I found another way to do things, right? Behind the microphone, as I'm sitting here right now, behind the microphone. So no, I don't. I'm glad it panned out the way it did. Now, do I wish I were traveling stadium to stadium and doing games? Sure, of course. I'm not mad that it panned out the way it did, though.
Hmm. For sure.
There you go. Um, so that's why I say, just like, if you have an idea, don't let it stop you. Like, I look at people like Corey Lee, right? Corey Lee, for those of you that don't know, Corey Lee is a travel blogger. He has a disability, he has muscular dystrophy, and he travels all over the world. All over the world. He's been to all 7 continents. And all he ever wanted to do growing up was travel. And he figured out a way to make it work. Right? He was like, I'm going to talk about my experiences traveling as a person with a disability. And he started doing it just out of the sheer love and joy of it. And through that, he's built a career out of it. Right? Now you look at him and you're like, how the hell are you going to go anywhere? You use a wheelchair. I mean, this dude has been like rides camels in the Middle East. Like, he's been on cruise ships and barges and, doing all he's, doing flips out of an airplane, extreme aerial stunt dive, and maybe not that, but but he's done all kinds of things because he didn't let reality stop him from what he wanted to do. And I think that's in huge part to his mom being his support system, not just physically, but just encouraging him to do the thing, right?
Hmm.
And so for any parents or younger folks with disabilities out there, don't let anything stop you from going for it. And even if it doesn't turn out the way you want to, sometimes it'll turn out even better than you could have ever imagined. Sometimes it won't, and that's okay. You can't fault yourself from actually going out and doing it, though, even if it doesn't turn out the way you want it to, right? So there you
Right.
go. Right. And part of that comes, well, what comes with that, though, is you not caring about the limits that other people put on you, right?
Hmm.
If you care about what other people think and you listen to other people and you allow them to put these limits on you, then sure, of course you're not going to do that thing, right? And you internalize those things, and then you start putting limits on yourself, right? And I still deal with this today to a certain extent. There are behaviors that manifest themselves, which started way back when, and this isn't just disability specific. This happens with everybody. All of these things that we learned in childhood come back and manifest themselves in self-limiting beliefs today, right? And I'm not saying be delusional, right? Like, I'm not going to be a pit crew member in a Formula One team, right? That's not happening. However, if you have a goal in mind, you have a vision in mind, go for it. And thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. You got to just go for it.
You,
No,
you,
no one else is going to make it happen for you.
no one else is going to make it happen for you. Now, there will be people along the way who will support you and do everything they can to help you get there. No one is going to do it for you. So go out and do it. Tell your parents, mom, dad, uncle Steve, this is what I want to do. And hopefully you have a supportive family who says, all right, let's do it. How are we going to do this? Let's figure it out. Right. And it's so much easier these days. There's so many options these days to help people get to where they want to go or do what they want to do, you know? Um, and so I say that and add this, that some days it's going to be hard. Some days it's going to be a challenge. A lot of days it's going to be a challenge. Right. And if you think about the end result, you'll never do it. Right? You'll never do it if you're only thinking about the end result. However, you think about the next thing that you have to do, it makes it much easier. And the one thing, Kevin, that I love about so many of us who have higher level disabilities is that we are resourceful as hell.
We have to be.
We have to be. Like, people say we're smart. People say we're geniuses. They're right. However, it's because we have to figure it out, right? This world was not made for us. And so we have to take the things in this world and use them in ways that they may not have been intended to be used and figure out creative solutions, right? You think this arm here that holds my keyboard was meant to hold my keyboard? No, it's meant for a mobile device, a cell phone or whatever, something like that. And it came with another attachment, but I found other things and made it work, right? You may think I'm a genius. You're right.
We're basically MacGyver.
Yes. Yes. And so I'm gonna tell you, parents and children's out there, that it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be a challenge. However, you will figure it out. You will. So I've got so many stories that I'm not gonna share today. So many stories where like you're like, how am I gonna do this? And yet I'm still here. Figured it out. So just be you and do your thing. Be you and do your thing.
We should get that on a shirt.
If
Be
it's not
you and do
already,
your thing.
yeah, if it's not already on a shirt. Look, if you decide you want to print that shirt, whoever's watching this, print it. We just want 5%. That's it. Just 5%. Got it? All right, deal. Thank you.
Please and thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. So yeah, I mean, these are just all things that I think younger people with disabilities need to know, that sometimes I wish I knew, that I've come to discover later. And I tell my friends sometimes, like, man, I wish I I knew at 25 what I know now and could bring that back to 25-year-old. I would be the man. I would have been the man if Tony today were implanted in Tony at 25. Oh man. Actually, it would probably have been dangerous. It would have probably been super dangerous. Super dangerous. Because I am armed with knowledge and confidence now.
Mm.
Ugh, that's scary. That's scary. Um, I don't know. I think about that though, like what it was like when I was in college, right? And like now I'm out in the world, I'm doing my thing. You know,
We made it.
we made it. And well, the weird thing though is like I just remember being in college and like you're hanging out with people and people are like, hey, you want a beer? Yeah, sure. I'll have a beer. Yeah. And nobody knows what they're doing. So you're wearing it at the end of the night, right? But you're having a good time. You make fun of it. It's humorous and all these other things. And it always felt like, well, no, I shouldn't say that. I'm not going to say it like that. I can look back on it now and say it now. In the moment, it wasn't. Like I definitely at some point was putting on a show, right? Just to gain acceptance with
Yeah.
the other kids who didn't have a disability, because I wanted them to see me as their peers and not just the guy in the wheelchair. And you know what? Guess what? They still saw me as the guy in the wheelchair, but he's fun,
Basically.
right? Oh,
Basically.
that
Yeah.
dude in the wheelchair is crazy. How many times have you heard that?
Yeah. Like, wow, he's so cool. He goes out and he takes shots.
Yeah, that dude in the wheelchair is crazy.
Yeah.
That dude loves the party, right? And
Yeah.
and you over embellish it a little bit because you want to be accepted by everybody else, right? Like you have that beer, you take that shot because you ain't no bitch, right?
Basically,
I ain't no bitch. Give me that shot,
at that age, yeah, for sure. That's definitely not me anymore. But yeah,
right? And so what I would love to tell 25 or even 21-year-old Tony is like, dude, it's cool. People like you as you are already. You ain't got to try so hard, man.
yeah.
It's cool.
And really, the ones who only like you if you're like doing something like that, like they're not your
They
friends.
ain't your friends anyway. And you know what?
Yeah.
I don't talk to those folks anymore anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And so
You realize as you get older, like who your real friends are and who is there for other reasons.
yeah. Yeah. And so that, that's another thing. Like you don't have to put on a mask or play a game,
Mhm.
right? Like, yeah, there can be different sides to you, right? There can be different aspects to your personality, but you don't have to be somebody else just to appease the other folks into liking you and being that cool guy in a wheelchair, cool girl in a wheelchair. Like, you ain't gotta do all that. It's not necessary. And that's one thing I like about it as I get older. Like, I just don't care anymore.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily apathy, but it's more like I just don't have time for it anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I've got my friends, I've got enough friends. I'll make more friends along the way. Whatever. Like, I just don't care.
Yeah. That's how I feel if it's like someone, if I like have a disagreement or whatever with someone. It's like, you know what? There's like 8 billion, almost 9 billion people on the planet. I'll take my chances.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, stop making babies, please. There's too many of us. I don't want to die, and I don't want the people I know. I don't want them to die either. Stop making babies, please. There's 9 billion people on this planet. You know,
It's a lot of
I,
people.
huh?
It's a lot of people.
A lot of people. Use protection. All right, I'm
That's, that's our PSA.
yeah, completely unrelated to anything we were just talking about. Oh man. So anyway, long story short, parents, kids, it's gonna be all right. Just do your thing, be you, and just go for the thing. Don't worry about it. It's gonna be fine. Kevin and I are proof that it's gonna be fine.
And especially like, I remember back in the day when I was a kid, I would think like, man, I remember this one time I went to a my a teammate's house with my older brother, and he lived in like a really nice house, all that, and we were in the basement, and they had this like this huge remote control, right, and it could control everything in the house, the lights, the sound system, I think the thermostat, all that stuff. And I remember like thinking like, man, if I had this, my life would be so much easier, and like it was probably a very expensive system, whatever it was. But like that's also something that I would tell my younger self is like technology is only going to like improve as time goes on. And like, yeah, these things might be hard for you now, but like just wait. Like it's only gonna get easier. And even now, like there are things that I can't do today that I might be able to do in like 10 years. Who knows? Depending on what technology is released in that
Yeah.
time.
Like, give
But
myself a haircut.
yeah, exactly.
I
That'd be
need one. Look at
sweet.
it. You see this? Jesus.
Oh wow.
I need one. Anyway. Oh man. So anyway, yes, it's gonna be fine. Technology's making life easier.
Mhm.
Thank goodness. Um, so yeah, there you go. That's what I wish my younger self knew. And my older self now knows I can't rewind time. I can still act like I'm 12 years old though. So there.
We're both kids at heart.
There we go. All right, cool. Well, on that note, that's episode 7 of the Long Way Around podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us
Yay.
today. Yeah. Thank you for joining us. And if you like this and you're still here right now, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and
Please, we're really cool.
yeah, and like the video, subscribe to our channel, follow us on Instagram and Facebook at TLWA podcast. Shoot us an email at the long way around podcast at gmail.com.
It's long way around podcast at
Whatever. I
gmail.com,
can't even
actually.
get it right. I can't even get it right.
It's
Long way
okay.
around podcast at gmail.com.
No, there's no the on it.
No, take that out.
Yeah.
But until next time, I'm Tony.
And I'm Kevin.
Goodbye. Thanks for watching. See you again. It's a long way-
Bye.